The chamber hissed, a long, low exhale of frost and pressure that echoed through the sterile silence. Cold vapor rolled across the metal floor, like fog over a battlefield. Around the edges of the cryo vault, the alien observers flinched, their large eyes glimmering behind armored masks. Even with their advanced sciences and centuries of war, something about the stillness in those human pods unsettled them. Lieutenant Zane Cross opened his eyes. No tremor, no gasp, just awareness, instant and sharp like a trigger pulled. The pod lights shifted from blue to red. He sat up and rotated his shoulders, each joint clicking into motion with the grace of a weapon being reassembled. His skin, pale from stasis, showed faint tracer lines along the arms and spine. Combat implants, archaic but effective. He glanced to the right. "Wolf," he said flatly. A second pod opened. Sergeant Wolf emerged with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Still alive. Hate that." Two more followed. Bishop, wide-shouldered and quiet, pulled himself out without a word. Mace, lean and wiry, stretched his neck, already scanning the room with quick, precise glances. The four stood barefoot and bare-chested in the cold air, silent among the sound of beeping monitors and hissing machines. A pair of alien attendants, a species with six-jointed limbs and translucent neck sacs, shuffled forward with translator units and biometric tablets. One alien stammered, "Lieutenant Cross, you are on board Coalition Medical Vessel Resolute. You were preserved for 322 years. You were designated Harbinger Protocol. We are—" "Mission first," Cross said, brushing past him. The alien fumbled with his device. "Yes, of course. The debriefing is—" "Later," Wolf growled. Mace took the device from the alien and flipped through the data. They kept most of our files sealed. Just basic world info, no psychological notes. That's probably wise. Bishop cracked his knuckles. "They scared." "Good," Cross replied. The team, dressed in black compression gear provided in crates by the Coalition, each piece fitting as if it had waited centuries for their return. Custom rifles, titanium alloy barrels, carbon stabilizers, gravity-adjusted scopes lay inside sealed cases. Their serial numbers were hand-etched. Human craftsmanship. None of that alien plasma junk. The Coalition briefing room was a tall cathedral of light and glass, its architecture designed to impress, to inspire peace. It failed. The sniper team sat in silence, chairs too small, room too bright, surrounded by a dozen alien species, all speaking in clipped, formal tones. 3 months ago, a tall insectoid general began, we encountered a new strain of enemy, the Zarkith. They were assumed to be a hive-based threat, confined to a collapsing system on the edge of Zone Delta 9. Initial containment was effective. Then they adapted. Biomechanical, heat-absorbing nanite fed. They now consume and convert anything organic or synthetic into biomass. They're not killing to win. Another said, they're consuming to evolve. Cross looked at the holographic display of the last destroyed planet. Dead terrain, blackened skies, crater fields dotted with corpses. Not a single energy signature left. Why us? Mace asked. The general hesitated. They adapted to our technology. Our AI targeting systems can't keep up with their morphs. Plasma and rail-based weapons are ineffective. Their nanite fields jam digital comms. But projectile ballistics seem to work. They can't jam human intuition. They can't jam instinct, Wolf muttered. You need hunters, Cross said, standing. He walked to the display, eyes tracing terrain lines, wind vectors, elevation maps. The others joined him, already seeing flanking points, choke zones, kill pockets. They didn't ask what the alien armies had tried. They didn't need to. You're not here to lead, the general said, perhaps with unintended sharpness. You're here to execute missions too dangerous for conventional forces. You'll be given operational freedom, but monitored. Bishop grunted. Until we win your war. No, Mace added. Until you remember why they locked us away. After the meeting, they walked the halls of the ship in silence. Alien personnel gave them a wide berth, pretending to be busy whenever they passed. Fear radiated off them like heat. Cross didn't blame them. He paused before a wide viewport showing the planet below. Cracked deserts, black storms. First deployment zone. Not much has changed, Wolf said, stepping beside him. Only the names, Cross replied. New enemies. Same mission. Mace brought up the mission file on his wrist unit. Zarkith cluster here near the southern ridge. 40 clicks out. Local garrison too scared to engage. They've sealed their bunker and cut off all comms. Sounds like a warm-up, Bishop said. Insert us by nightfall, Cross ordered. No drones. Just wind, elevation, and triggered discipline. The team moved back to the armory, assembling gear in synchronized silence. Suppressed rifles, kinetic rounds, mech-woven cloaks. Cross watched them, one hand running along the barrel of his rifle like a priest touching relics. Mace looked up from a datapad. You know, statistically, we're not supposed to survive this. Cross stared back at him. Statistically, we shouldn't exist. On the bridge, the alien commander Vrax watched the humans on a screen. He was tall and slender, with green-veined skin and deep red eyes. His adjutant approached. Sir, are we certain this is necessary? The Harbinger unit was sealed for a reason. Their record. I've read it, Vrax said. So have the others. But we have no choice. The Zarkith consume everything. The humans might be worse, but they're pointed in the right direction for now. Below, the team entered the drop chamber. No ceremony, no words. Wolf glanced at his scope. Wind speed's perfect. Target-rich environment, Bishop said, loading shells with a reverent click. Mace locked the final seal on his rifle and smiled. Let's see what evolution thinks about 7.62. As the chamber hissed again and the red lights bathed them in readiness, Cross spoke only once. Wake up. Lock in. Let's remind the galaxy what humans are good at. Then they dropped like bullets from a barrel, silent, cold, and irreversible. Dust curled in lazy spirals over the wasteland, carried by the low, whispering wind that moved like a predator, silent, patient, and ever watching. The sun, pale and distant behind a veil of smoke, cast no warmth on the cracked soil of the dead colony world. Broken towers jutted out of the ground like ancient bones. The air smelled of rust and ash. Nothing grew here anymore. Nothing dared. Sergeant Wolf adjusted the focus on his scope. The familiar resistance of the dial, grounding him more than the planet beneath his boots. A kilometer away, downwind and nestled between collapsed buildings, a Zarkith patrol moved like a living mass of blades. Spindly limbs, jagged carapaces, and swarming logic. They moved in rhythmic pulses, never truly stopping, always adapting. Target density just shifted again. Wolf whispered into the bone mic pressed against his jaw. Secondary groups joining from the northeast. Looks like they're triangulating the bunker. Probably sniffed out the survivors. Lieutenant Cross's voice came through low and even. Time to remind them what pain feels like. Wolf's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. He exhaled slowly, aligning crosshairs just above the largest Zarkith's shoulder blade. It stood taller than the others, more plated. A command type, maybe. He squeezed the trigger. The suppressed shot made no sound, but the result was deafening. The round punched through bio-armor, detonating in the creature's thorax with enough force to lift it off its legs. The others didn't panic. They twitched, recalculated, adjusted formation. But Wolf was already moving. He slithered backward down the dune, cloak blurring into the dust like heat shimmer. Mace and Bishop waited in the gully, rifles at the ready, Cross kneeling between them over a hand-drawn map etched into the dirt with a combat knife. Wolf confirmed splash, Mace reported, scanning telemetry. They're not breaking, but they're leaning right. Same pattern as the last raid. Good, Cross replied. They're learning, but not fast enough. Think they'll spot the trap? Bishop asked, thumbing a fresh mag into place. They can't process deception, Mace said, checking his sensors. Everything they do is based on direct threat feedback. You hit them, they hit back harder. You bait them, they overextend. It's instinct wearing a tactical hat. Which makes us nightmares, Wolf added as he rejoined them, brushing dust from his scope. They don't dream. We do. Cross stood, pulling his hood up, The team melted into motion, breaking into twos. Cross and Bishop headed west of the ruins. Wolf and Mace veered south to set flanking overwatch. No words. No need. Time passed in the rhythm of breath and heartbeat. The snipers moved through the colony's remains like shadows through memory, stepping over long dead bones, ignored alien graffiti and rusted wreckage of civilian transports. The Coalition had lost this place months ago. Now it was just a buffet for the Zarkith. Wolf found his perch again, this time atop a fragmented spire with a collapsed roof. Mace set up below, routing visuals through a fiber link, tapping into old buried circuits to boost range. They're crawling into the alley network now, Mace whispered. If they hit the pressure zone in sequence, they'll chain react the charges. Then it's fireworks, Wolf murmured, lining up. On the opposite ridge, Cross watched the kill corridor take shape. The Zarkith moved through it with machine-like precision, unaware of the dozen microcharges buried under concrete and debris. Bishop sat next to him, unusually still. You think they'll learn after this? Bishop asked. No, Cross replied, adjusting his scope. They'll catalog it, try something new next time. But instinct like theirs doesn't innovate. They replicate. We improvise. Good. The first mine went off like a thunderclap, throwing dust and kiting into the air. A second, third, then a full chain erupted in a fiery crescendo. Limbs flew, ground cracked. Screeches echoed across the plain like synthetic agony. Wolf took out 3 more while they scrambled. Center mass, headshot, kneecap followed by a clean finisher. Mace called angles when movement. Bishop laughed once as one Zarkith tried to leap over a gap and was caught midair by a tungsten slug that turned it into red mist. The battle lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it ended, silence returned, heavy and unnatural. The team emerged from the ruins slowly, sweeping the area with rifles raised. Nothing moved but the dust. Bishop walked past a dying Zarkith twitching in the dirt. He paused and stared into its segmented eyes. Still no fear, he muttered. They don't need it, Cross said behind him. They die for the hive, not themselves. Mace tapped a beacon into the ground. Extraction marker set. Coalition will clean up the mess. If they show up, Wolf added. Last time they stayed in orbit until we left. Too scared to land. Smart, Bishop said. We're worse than these things. That night, the team camped near the bunker. Coalition survivors refused to come out, even after confirmation that the threat was neutralized. One of them, an insectoid species technician, sent a message through encoded text. Are you human? Mace smirked when he read it. Took them long enough to ask. They knew, Cross said, sitting with his back to the fireless heat lamp. They just didn't want the answer. Wolf stared out into the distance, eyes adjusting to night vision naturally. The colony stretched out like a corpse, black and empty. They'll send us again soon, he said. We're tools, Bishop added. Pull the trigger, then put us back in the box. Cross leaned forward, resting elbows on knees. They don't understand. You don't unfreeze a bullet unless you're ready for it to hit something. No one's ready, May said softly. Hours later, as the team prepped for dust-off, Coalition Command opened comms. The alien voice was cautious. Harbinger Unit, your mission parameters were exceeded. You destroyed 67 enemy units, recovered intel nodes, and ensured 0 casualties for the remaining bunker personnel. We are adjusting expectations for future deployments. We're not interested in expectations, Cross said. Send coordinates. We'll handle the rest. Understood. A high-value target has been identified 3 systems over. Confirm if your team is. We're always ready, Wolf said, cutting the channel. The shuttle landed at dawn, heat thrusters kicking up a cyclone of ash. The team climbed aboard without ceremony. No cheers, no medals, just a fresh mission packet, encrypted and glowing on Mace's datapad. As the ramp closed and the outside world disappeared behind steel, Bishop cracked his neck and looked at Cross. Why do they keep waking us up? Cross looked down at his rifle, then out toward the sealed hatch, as if he could still see the kill zone stretching beyond it. Because evolution didn't make us killers, he said. We chose it. That makes us better at it than anything they've ever bred. No one argued. The shuttle jumped into the void, and the galaxy turned just a little quieter. The footage looped again. 17 seconds of chaos distilled into silent, brutal precision. The Zarkid patrol entered the ruins at 4:16 local time. At 4 hours, 17 minutes and 1 second, the first sniper round struck. By 4 hours, 17 minutes and 18 seconds, every one of the 17 Zarkid units lay motionless, some torn apart mid-stride. Others fell in surgical bursts of bone-splitting force. Commander Vrax watched without blinking. His nictitating membranes flicked across his crimson pupils once. The still frame at the end of the video showed the dust settling over a perfect pattern of carnage. Arcs of blood, shattered armor, heat trails already cooling. He turned to the others in the war room, his voice level. These humans are not just efficient. They're disquieting. They're a blunt instrument, murmured strategist Yalin, a pale-skinned reptiloid whose species once fought humans in the Jovian uprising. They strike with outdated methods and primal instincts, but they function beyond predictive models. That's dangerous. They function beyond control, Vrax corrected. The other advisors fell quiet. Since the Harbinger team's reactivation, the tide of Zarkid expansion had reversed in isolated sectors. Colonies once left to rot were seeing signs of reclamation, but the success came with tremors. The humans followed orders only in the loosest sense. They operated without permission, executed coalition assets if those assets compromised a mission. Their kill count was unparalleled. Yet no one truly understood what kept them tethered. Vrax called up a secondary feed, an audio recording from a recently decrypted helmet mic. The voice was clear, male, unflinching. If you want leash control, keep your dogs. We're not here to serve. We're here to finish the job. He muted the clip. He said finally, we cannot program. We can only aim. The chamber fell into silence again, broken only by the sound of encrypted data packets arriving from the next battlefield. On the ground, beneath a sunless sky on the crater world of Elixis, 9, Zane Cross knelt behind a fractured structure of alien steel, his breath steady, rifle locked to his shoulder. Bishop crouched beside him, scanning the opposing ridge with monocular optics. Behind them, Wolf and Mace flanked opposite ends of the ruined settlement, placing sensors and movement traps in the narrow approach corridors. They were hunting something different now. The Zarkith had changed. They had begun to adapt even faster, reconfiguring plating mid-battle, shifting heat signatures, even using localized sound distortion to mask footfalls. Tactical evolution. Intelligence, perhaps not at a human level, but something approximating it. The sniper team didn't fear that. They welcomed it. Movement, Bishop said. 3 clicks out. Bigger profile. Not like the usual scouts. Cross adjusted his scope. Zooming in, what he saw looked like a nightmare stripped from a Black Ops hallucination file. It was a Zarkith, but not. Larger, denser. Reinforced plating that shimmered with nanite motion. Limbs reinforced with metallic sinew. The head was partially shielded by grown alloy armor, and there was something almost calculated in the way it scanned the terrain. Not instinct. Strategy. Mace, Cross said calm but sharp. You seeing this? Yeah, that's a new variant. Biocom relays on its back. Might be coordinating local units. Think it's command grade? Wolf asked through comms. Looks like it. Think the Hive learned we were coming. Cross didn't hesitate. Then let's teach it why that doesn't matter. The humans move like shadows, communicating to the smallest gestures and microbursts of encrypted pulse code. Within 10 minutes, the kill box was shaped. The target walked straight into it. But it didn't fall. The first shot, fired by Wolf from 2.6 kilometers, should have dropped it cold. Instead, it staggered and rebalanced. The round fractured one of its side plates, but beneath that was another layer, glimmering with writhing black nanites. It turned toward Wolf's ridge. Compensating, Wolf reported, armors mutating mid-impact. Mace toggled a signal flare in the target's direction. It detonated in a flare of sound and shrapnel, temporarily disorienting the creature. Cross and Bishop opened fire from the flank, their rounds digging to the thing's limbs and center mass. but never cleanly disabling it. The Zarkiv variant moved like a glitch in reality, absorbing damage, recalibrating constantly. The fight lasted longer than any before. 10 minutes, then 15. More Zarkiv began to appear, drawn to the conflict like ants to a scream. Smaller, faster, but similarly modified. These were not random horde responses. These were coordinated reinforcements. The sniper team fell back in practice movements. Cross relayed targeting data. Mace rerouted their traps into a secondary kill path. Bishop laid down suppressing fire, less to kill, more to slow. Wolf, quiet as ever, took shot after shot from terrain most eyes would consider inhospitable. He didn't miss. But the new enemy didn't fight like prey. It stalked. It adapted. And worse, it learned. By nightfall, the team had expended more rounds than any prior engagement. Their bodies were bruised, armor cracked, breath thinner in the high-altitude dust fields. The enemy had finally fallen, but not before tearing a path through several drone relays and scattering the last of the Coalition's surface scouts. As the four regrouped at a collapsed outpost, Bishop sat down hard against a wall and dropped his rifle. "Close one," he said, eyes still scanning the horizon. Not the usual mindless bugs. "They've started coordinating," Mace added. That command type, it wasn't just broadcasting. It was calculating threats. We weren't just shooting fish in a barrel anymore. We were on the list. Wolf grunted. "Means next time, they'll bring more than claws." Cross said nothing for a moment. He looked down at the fragments he'd collected. Bits of armor still writhing with inactive nanites, like twitching flesh after death. He placed them in a sample tube, sealed it, and handed it to Mace. "Ship these up. Let the Coalition figure out what they're really up against." "And what about us?" Bishop asked. Cross turned, the fading light etching harsh shadows across his face. "We prepare for the next variant." Back aboard the Resolute, Commander Vrax reviewed the new combat logs. The Zarkiv were no longer evolving biologically. They were incorporating alien tech, bits of scavenged Coalition units, fragments of AI logic, even mimicked energy-dampening fields. It was no longer a matter of extermination. It was an arms race, and the humans were at the center of it. Vrax received a direct ping, a personal log request, sent by Cross himself. He opened the message. "They're learning faster. Doesn't matter. So, don't pull us. Don't interfere. You'll just get more people killed. The hive's waking up." "Good. It means we're hitting nerve clusters. Keep sending targets. Don't get cute." Vrax read the message twice, then deleted it. Later that cycle, a sealed report arrived from the Coalition Oversight Board. The humans were to be evaluated for excessive operational aggression, with the possibility of retrieval, containment, or, if necessary, deactivation. Vrax stared at the recommendation and thought of the last Zarkit that took 17 minutes to die. He deleted the file without forwarding it, because the Coalition hadn't just unsealed a weapon. They'd reintroduced a species that never stopped evolving under fire, and the fire had only just started. The shuttle groaned as it pierced the superheated atmosphere of Chiron 7, groaning against the pressure like a wounded beast. Outside, the sky churned with fire. Volcanoes bled smoke into the upper clouds. Lightning danced between storm-racked peaks. The landscape below looked more like a wound than a planet. Raw, pulsing, alive in the worst possible sense. Inside, the sniper team sat strapped in silence. Zane Cross didn't need to speak. His presence was enough. Focused, grounded, unreadable. He sat with his rifle disassembled across his lap, carefully inspecting each component. Oil, carbon, and metal, a ritual he repeated before every operation. His hands were steady. His eyes held no reflection. Across from him, Wolf sat with his back to the cabin wall, his gaze fixed on a flickering display. The drop path was a straight dive into chaos. Wind speeds are off the chart. Ash plumes rising to 30 kilometers. "Our cloaks won't hold." "They'll fail," Mace confirmed, tapping at his portable rig, which had been modified half a dozen times since their last deployment. "Thermal optics will be worthless. Comm lag could spike to 5 seconds inside the hive. Maybe more. Good, Bishop said without looking up. Makes it interesting. Cross spoke, voice low and absolute. One target. One purpose. No survivors on either side. The rear hatch cracked open with a violent hiss, and the heat hit them like a furnace blast. Even with filtered helmets, the air was heavy, thick with sulfur, particulate, and static charge. The world smelled of death before it was even touched. Beneath them, Chiron 7 writhed with tectonic pain. The Zarkith home hive was buried deep in the planet's crust, hidden beneath centuries of camouflage and hostile terrain. No one had ever gone in. No one had ever come out. Until now, they deployed into the ash-blasted gorge on foot. The dropship wouldn't risk landing. Coalition brass had labeled this a suicide run, but that label had never meant much to the Harbinger team. They moved with a grace learned not in simulations but in real war, each man aware of every inch of his gear, his surroundings, his team. They were 4 minds moving with one purpose. As they advanced, they passed the remnants of failed incursions, collapsed probes, twisted drone chassis, and fragment of other species' war machines, all devoured by the Zarkith and repurposed into architecture. Bones, both organic and alloy, were fused into the terrain. The planet itself had become part of the hive. Movement up high, Wolf muttered. He pointed to a distant ridge where something tall and many-legged stood motionless against the lightning, watching. It's not defending, Bishop said. It's waiting. Then we move before it changes its mind. Cross-ordered. They found the entrance to the hive where the ground gave way into a spiraling shaft that pulsed with bioluminescent light. The walls were covered in a fibrous material that flexed with each step they took, as if the planet was aware of their presence. Scanning's intermittent, May said, but I'm mapping a path downward. Neural density increases the deeper we go. Core's below, Cross replied. Let's cut its brain out. The tunnel was not empty. They encountered the first of the new Zarkith sentries an hour in, solitary, silent, and wrong. These weren't mindless hunters. They stood watch. They waited in alcoves, perfectly still until provoked. They didn't charge blindly. They tried to flank, to bait. It didn't help. Wolf dropped the first one mid-turn, with a triple burst to the back of the skull. Mace took the second with an electric trap that shorted the creature's nanite-laced armor before Bishop tore its throat open with a short-range kinetic blast. They moved on, deeper into the nerve cluster. The air turned thicker, harder to breathe even through filters. The walls pulsed. The floor had veins, some carrying fluid, others electrical impulses. The hive was alive, not just in the metaphorical sense. It had evolved into an organ, and they were walking on its nerves. Cross paused in a junction, analyzing the path forward. This isn't architecture, he said. It's arrangement. They built this like we build kill zones, Bishop muttered. Funhouse made of muscle. It's learning from us, Wolf added, and copying. They passed chambers filled with remains. Alien bodies dissolved into biomass, stored for replication. Zarkith warriors hovered over them, injecting fluids into half-molten spines. Some of those spines weren't alien. They've started growing us, Mace whispered. Cross didn't stop. Then we burn it all. They reached the lowest point after 4 hours of silent maneuvering. The neural core was vast, an open sphere suspended within a cavern larger than any coalition dreadnought. The walls pulsed with 1,000 glowing nodes. In the center was the cortex, a massive cluster of nerve tissue, alloy, and energy coils. The beating heart of a species designed to consume thought and form alike. Mace began setting charges. They've got sensor nodes all around this place, he muttered. They know we're here. No point in hiding. Wolf scanned the approach. Then let them come. They did. Within minutes. The tunnels filled with Zarkith, not the erratic swarm from previous engagements, but coordinated platoons. Some carried shields fused to their forearms. Others deployed projectile weaponry, reverse-engineered from coalition wreckage. Some were already shaped like humans. The battle was close, brutal, and personal. Bishop held the primary corridor, laughing in short bursts as he felt each wave. His armor took hits. One arm stopped responding. He kept firing. Mace routed charge patterns through the wall fibers, using the hive's own bioconduits to amplify the blast potential. 2 minutes until detonation. Cross moved like a ghost through the chaos, laying traps and taking headshots, conserving ammunition with unnatural calm. Wolf stood beside the final charge, carving holes through any Zarkit that tried to get past. Then the scream came. It wasn't sound, it was pressure. The core emitted a pulse that dropped all 4 men to one knee. Their HUDs glitched. Internal implants spasmed. For a moment, they felt the hive trying to speak. "You should not exist," it said. Mace gasped, wiping blood from his mouth. "It's using our own neural net protocols. It's not mimicking anymore. It's us now." "No," Cross whispered, standing. "It's a mirror. It reflects everything but understands nothing." The charges were armed, but the tunnel was collapsing. "We're not all making it," Bishop said, limping toward the core, rifle still hot. "Someone's got to hold this until you're clear." Cross turned to argue, but Bishop raised a hand. "Save it. This is what I was made for." The others fell back as Bishop took his final position, kneeling before the core, a wall of fire behind him. Zarkit approaching through broken stone and melted steel. He never looked back. The explosion began small, just a flicker in the dark. Then it rose into a bloom of light that devoured the entire chamber. The shockwave launched the surviving 3 up through escape tunnels. Systems failing, cloaks shredded, armor cracked. They emerged onto the burning surface just as the moon's crust gave way. A column of fire erupted into the sky. The ground split, swallowing towers and ridges. Above them, the shuttle descended in low orbit, ignoring every protocol. It landed without clearance, doors already open. Mace collapsed first inside. Wolf followed, bleeding from a gash across his ribs. Cross came last, pausing once to stare at the chasm. No one said a word. Back aboard the Resolute, silence blanketed the med bay. Coalition officers tried to speak, tried to offer something resembling gratitude or analysis. None of it mattered. Commander Vrax found Cross in the observation chamber, staring at the void where Chiron 7 used to be. "The Zarkit are gone," Vrax said, as a confirming reality. Cross didn't reply. "There are those who believe your team should be deactivated. Cryo stored again until you are needed, or never." "We were never supposed to wake up," Cross said without turning. "You made us to win wars you couldn't survive. And now—" Cross turned, face unreadable. "Now you live with what you unleashed." Vrax exhaled slowly. "The galaxy will need peacekeepers, not executioners." "Then don't call us next time." Later, an encrypted message was uploaded into the Coalition's deep relay grid. It had no source, no signature, just a voice. "We came when called. We ended the war. Don't thank us. Don't follow us. We're not heroes." With a warning shot. Somewhere, far from charted space, a ship with no registry disappeared into the dark, carrying 3 men who once saved the galaxy, and who would never stop watching it.